Forbes has just priced a US-backed XRP at about $60,000 as the Trump administration, or the President of the United States of America, signs a deal that will unlock trillions of dollars into a crypto strategic reserve, including $68 billion worth of XRP to be locked up and stored in that strategic reserve. Now, this is a big deal because the Federal Reserve has talked about it on numerous occasions and even mentions that they will begin powering the Federal Reserve payment system in US FedNow using XRP. Take a look at this report right here, posted by the Federal Reserve, where the Federal Reserve basically reveals that they'll not be using Ripple in a partnership with them to use XRP. It says right here, Ripple, a prime provider of cross-border payments, processing systems, and open source distributed ledger technology for financial transactions, may be included among the fintech companies that the FedNow will utilize. On top of this, if you take a look at the top here, it says the FedNow service partnership is going to be between the Federal Reserve and between Ripple Labs. As the former US Federal Reserve executive hints that the Fed could delegate settlement to a third party like Ripple for all Federal Reserve payments, including cross-border transaction debt. Now, if we take a look at the total debt that the United States has, it has about $39 trillion to China. And so what we could see here is that be delegated to Ripple Labs, and Ripple Labs use XRP to facilitate those transactions, resulting in the price as predicted by many, including Forbes, as $60,000 per XRP. Just listen to this.
That could be resolved in a variety of ways, but it could also be resolved in regulation coming in over the top. We know it's imminent, though, right? So when I say imminent, I would be surprised if a quarter from now we're really still embroiled in the SEC lawsuit, because I think the state of affairs throughout the world is such that we're going to need a solution like an XRP for liquidity purposes sooner rather than later. So the question is then, okay, we've magically resolved it. Where does the price go? It's easy to project that it's a double-digit number. So I think it immediately shoots up to a $10, potentially $20. The wild card to me is that there is actually a deal to be done among the central banks and governments to basically have XRP work as the world's bridge currency, a neutral asset that can be traded between the central banks to move a specific type of fiat to another type of fiat. If that's what occurs, it's back to what we were discussing earlier. It's got to cover kind of all the money. And I think you're looking at a range that XRP would settle on agreement. So this would happen instantaneously, somewhere between $10,000 and $35,000 a coin. And our lives will be, maybe the same, maybe different. I don't know. Probably a little different.
In fact, things are getting so crazy that the Federal Reserve now proposed to actually buy up all the XRP from Ripple Labs. And what that caused is a massive Ripple buyback of XRP from retail to try and shift it out of retail hands and into institutions and into governments. And so as we talk about XRP, and we currently look at the XRP price chart, starting at about $1.86, with the potential of XRP going from $1 right now, like the price you're looking at it, to potentially $10,000, $20,000, $60,000, it's important to accumulate XRP specifically when it's free. Because we partner with Apple to give every single person watching in today's video up to $100 for you guys to actually get yourself some more XRP. Guys, it's free money. All you have to do is like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, sign up on Apple using my link in the description and do a transaction. The whole process takes less than 5 minutes. It's literally free money, and it's the best way you guys can secure yourself, get yourself a chunk of XRP that could be worth hundreds of thousands in the future, all just by spending 5 minutes of your time. And so again, I'm going to leave this to you. You can tell your family, tell your friends, and let's get back to the video. Now, this globalization and this integration of XRP has expanded to a very large level. We're talking about to the point where even the Bank of America, also known as the Bank of USA, has announced a partnership with Ripple Labs that will soon begin actually using XRP for facilitating of transactions externally. Now, we already know that internally, the CEO of Bank of America came up publicly on multiple different news outlets and stated that the Bank of America actually uses XRP for all internal transactions. And so it's quite clear that the adoption of XRP and the integration of XRP, and even the expansion specifically in the United States of America, is one that we are going to continually see grow. And again, that $68 billion worth of XRP in the Federal Reserve Treasury is just one explanation that we are closer than ever to the instance where XRP becomes an integral part of the American financial infrastructure and in general of the payment infrastructure globally. And so if $68,000 per XRP is the price set out by Forbes, and we are actually going to try and reach that price, then it only makes sense to understand how much money is required to enter in and how that's even possible. For example, $650 trillion is what's speculated to actually be entering into the XRP ledger that was going to cause for a big supply shock for XRP and result in its price skyrocketing. Now, $650 trillion, if it is going to come through, it's coming from one institution known as RealFi, which is a payment reward solution that is planning to unlock a $654.39 trillion market using a project or a token built directly on the XRP ledger known as the Real token. Now, RealFi is an institution that is unlocking that money, and they've just actually announced that they partner with CoinMarketCap, they partner with Mex, and partner with a lot of other institutions for the integration and adoption of the XRP Ledger built Real token, which is a token that they use as a system. Now, this is the Real token. It's up 5% when the rest of the market is all in the red. Like you can clearly see, the entire market is literally crashing, except for Real token, which is consistently going up, and it's due to the actual adoption and use case by institutions of the Real token. Like for example, we can start by looking, so there's very strong support, very low resistance for the Real token price, and the volume's up, the price is up, everything is in the green for it. Now, this is especially important when you highlight that Real token has one of the lowest supplies by far in the cryptocurrency space. In fact, for example, XRP has 100 billion total supply, XLM has about 50 billion total supply, Real token has a max supply of 1 billion with only 900 million approximately left available because they've already burnt like 100 million Real tokens. But look at this, because Real token has reached so far that you have analysts, experts, everybody's talking about Real token, and they're saying and predicting that Real token could literally go to over $65,000 from what? 2 cents. This is what we're talking about. Take a look at this report right here. It's official, it's happening. The game-changing move to unleash trillions in global capital across the XRP ledger as Real token built on the XRPL targets the massive $650 trillion global real estate market. Now take a look at this report. If just 1% of that $650 trillion market enters into the ecosystem, we're talking Real token specifically, it could theoretically skyrocket the price of Real token from about 2.5 cents to over $64,500, and this can happen literally overnight. And it's all because you are bound to experience a massive supply shock as a result of massive demand and not enough supply. Ultimately, you end up experiencing a big price increase for that token because obviously, if there's not enough supply, there's so much demand, something has to give. And it turns out that the price is what gives, and you end up experiencing a massive price pump that skyrockets the price of Real token to what some experts and analysts believe is about $65,000 per Real token. Now that is insane because at the end of the day, you don't even need a Real token to hit anywhere close to that for millions to be made. We're talking about a project that's currently 2 cents, 2.5 cents per Real token. In fact, if somebody were to buy like $10,000 right now in Real token, the price could skyrocket into the dollars. Like it maybe hit, $7, $8, $9. I don't know. But the concept is it would literally skyrocket that high. Now imagine that at scale to $100,000 in daily transaction volume. Because Real token just got listed on Mex. Real token just got listed on CoinMarketCap. Real token is continually expanding, starting to get that global recognition. In fact, even some of the bigger exchanges are hinting at, possibly, showing you the price of Real token, which is actually extremely bullish, and it shows us and puts the emphasis that the globalization of the XRP ledger via projects like Real token is officially actually happening. And so it's very important that you guys pay attention to what is going on, because I'll be leaving all the information down below in the description, all the links, everything, so that you guys can have access and you guys can make an informed decision. So again, I'm going to be leaving everything down below in the description. I really want to emphasize that I'm not a financial advisor, it's not financial advice, I'm doing research, and you can definitely check them out, because again, Real token is available on CoinMarketCap. You can see that Real token, and if you want to look it up, you can see right there, Mex, so you can just click there, and it will give you easy access to actually get into the Real token. But this is also important when looking at any XRP ledger-based projects or anything on the XRPL as a whole. All right, guys. So with all that being said, I'm going to actually go ahead and end off concluding the video here. Now, it's very important that you pay very close attention to what is happening in the cryptocurrency space and the cryptocurrency markets, because obviously right now we are at a very critical point in time. If you take a look, for example, XRP is 183. but the potential here is substantial. I mean, we could see a massive bull run, and this is typically the times where you have like a fake out to try and have people sell, liquidate before the big rebound. So we're keeping a very close eye. It's definitely important to keep a close eye and see what's going on. But with that being said, I'm going to end off the video here. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to this video. And again, if you want to get yourself up to $100 for you guys to accumulate even more XRP, all you have to do is sign up and upload using my link in the description and do a transaction. With that being said, I'll see you guys next time, and peace.